Hi, my name is Taylor Campbell, and this is for Com 430. I interviewed Chris Campbell for my leadership project, not because he's simply someone I know and he's easy to get a hold of, but because I honestly believe that he is a great leader. I interviewed him because professionally he is an area sales manager for Chrysler. He's responsible for managing dealers all over the state of Wyoming, so he's a leader for all of those dealers. And my findings were surprising, and they were also affirmed of what we've learned so far in this course. So the first question I asked him was what his first leadership role was, and surprisingly he didn't say something that was a job or part of his career. It was being a captain of a basketball team. So it just kind of reminds me that being a leader doesn't necessarily mean it's in a corporation or for an organization, but it could be anywhere. I mean, even like in our class we have leadership groups right now, and one person has for sure stepped up as the leader. And I asked him how he ended up in a leadership position, not necessarily being the captain of a basketball team, but how he got to kind of like where he is today. And he said with persistence and past experiences and opportunities that gave him more responsibility just a little bit at a time, which makes sense because bit by bit he was given a little bit more responsibility throughout each career path he started to take, which kind of accumulated into what he does today. So I asked him if he preferred being a leader or if he would rather follow, and he answered very honestly. He said, I would rather be a leader because I like the control factor to make sure that the team achieves the overall goal together. When you're a follower, you don't really have a say in the job for sure getting done. You just do your part and kind of expect the rest of the group to do theirs. But as the leader, he gets to make sure that the job gets done and he does his part as well. So I asked him what he thinks the most important characteristic of being an effective leader is. And he says work ethic, because without work ethic, you lack motivation to motivate your followers, which makes a lot of sense to me and kind of corresponds to the readings with motivation being an empowerment being a good characteristic of a good leader. I asked him if there are any specific leaders that he looked up to when he was a follower, and he kind of surprised me again. He said it was his dad and his older brothers, because they were supportive and they cared about him as a person, but they were also made sure that they were guiding them in the right direction, which is kind of the same balance that you need as a manager. You need to care about your employees and your followers as a person and understand the stresses and the difficulty of the task they're doing, but also guide them along. So I asked him a different question as to whether he's witnessed any leaders who perhaps did a poor job and, kind of taught him a way that he doesn't want to be in an opposite direction. And he said, yeah, he had a leader who wasn't concerned with his well-being. He was just wanting to get the job done so that he could look good to his boss, not so that they could look good as a team, but just more selfish, which we learned was a bad characteristic of leadership. I asked him if he had any negative experiences in which his leadership tactics failed and how he remedied the situation. And he said that with everyone's busy schedule, sometimes over-communicating can have a negative impact. While his dealerships need a strong push, there's such thing as pushing too far. And to fix situations like that, sometimes when he's communicating too much, he just kind of pulls back and lets them do their work, which he's found to work out really well. It also kind of gives his followers a sense of trust, that he trusts them to just do their job rather than micromanaging, hey, did you do this? Did you do that? You need to do this. So I asked him if he prefers having his followers' input, and if not, why. And he says, yeah, because it ensures that he's moving in the right direction, and so is the organization. Because without his dealer's input, he wouldn't know the pros and cons of certain products and whether they're selling and whether it's working or not. So I asked him how important it is to have a relationship with his followers. And he says, and if it's not important, why? And he says it's very important to have a relationship with your followers because you want them to trust you and want to work with you and for you. Without that relationship, they're not really motivated to work for you. So I asked him how he builds credibility with his followers and what he does to gain their trust. And he says, I've become their friend, and more importantly, I lead by example. So all of these things I feel like really tied into the course and what we've learned so far with work ethic, motivating, empowering, what not to do as a leader. And I thought Chris did a really good job in his interview, and I can't wait to see what leadership roles he takes on next.